Great call to join in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics today because, man, Solomon Wilcots is our guest. Solomon Wilcots, former Bengal, safety, extraordinaire, part of the SWAT team, gone on to a tremendous broadcasting career, also a super podcaster. I mean, Solly is football. And talking to Solomon Wilcots is always a pleasure. Boy, he threw some stats out, some numbers out that are very interesting. You're going to get educated about what's going on with the Cincinnati Bengals football season for sure. We talked about the Bengals. We talked about where they are the first few games of the season, and also give a great preview of the Baltimore Ravens, what they're all about, how you're going to beat them. Good football discussion. Always is with Solomon Wilcots. You'll enjoy it. We appreciate you joining us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. As always, we're coming to you from the studio that they built and provided for us, and it is good digs, man. Gotta love it. Makes life easier, makes the job much easier. And I'll tell you, our special guest today certainly makes the job much easier. This guy played football at the highest level. He's been a broadcaster in many arenas at the highest level. Also a podcaster extraordinaire. There's nothing that Solomon Wilcots cannot do with respect to football. He is the most versatile guy I've met in the game of football. Solly, what's happening, my man?
Dave, hey, appreciate the introduction. You know, we love this game. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
It's the gift that keeps giving. And I'm just glad we got the win on Sunday. I could not imagine living in a world the next day after going to Carolina and losing to a team led by Andy Dalton, who, by the way, I'm really happy for him and the way he's playing. But yeah. I want him to have a great Sunday, winning a lot of games, except for when he's playing against our guys. So I'm just glad we finally got our first win.
Oh man, it was elusive. That first win was elusive, man. maybe now if we get one, we can string some together here a little bit, but. I agree with you. Andy Dalton, he threw the ball 40 times in that football game. The punter threw another time on the fake punt, Hecker, but he threw 40 times. And there were only like three a couple of them came out of his hand that he wished he had back. Maybe three that weren't. Everything else, though, was catchable, and they didn't catch them all, but I mean, he put the ball on the money. He really did.
I think I got him I think they dropped 4 of his passes, and
Makes sense.
And they were on plays that could have converted into first downs. I mean, they were on critical downs where he hit them right in the basket. And they just dropped it. So, you know, think about, Joe Burrow's interception, the only interception he's thrown so far this season.
Right.
He was betting on his receiver continuing on the route. Jamar Chase kind of broke it off the other way just as it was leaving the hands of Joe Burrow. That's the miscommunication that you and I both know that sometimes happen.
Right.
Not every interception is the quarterback's fault, and I think that was indicative of one of those.
Yeah, I agree. After the game, we asked Joe about it, and he said, well, we were on different pages there. He said, but if I had to throw it again, I'd throw it the same way. In other words, like, I didn't screw up, man.
I'm going to tell you about Joe. That's what you love about him.
Yeah.
He takes it all on him. He doesn't need to sort of diffuse anything. And he knows that 9 out of 10, Jamar, bails him out, right? Yep. So it's like, hey, you're not going to be perfect in this game. You and I both know it. It is those moments of imperfection that makes us human. But what makes these guys really special is their ability to overcome them. And Joe was able to do that. Love the way that he was able to get us. He closed out the game with one of the most savvy plays a quarterback can ever, kind of display. And that is pulling the other team off sides on the hard count.
Yep.
He didn't even need to snap the ball. He got him. You and I both know it was that play that essentially closed out the game.
Yeah. I mean, 3rd and 4, and he gets the 5-yard penalty, and it's great. It's great as an offensive lineman. You You stay in that 3-point stance, and I mean, if a volcano's erupting or tornadoes, you don't move, man. You stay in that stance. And you just wait. You know.
That's right.
And he got him. He got him to jump, and that was
great
big.
play. Great play by a quarterback. Great play.
And how about? I thought really the offensive line probably had their best game of the year. They're ascending, and talking to Frank Pollock a little bit today. Frank was like, that's probably one of the best games that I've had the pleasure of, coaching as an offensive line coach with the Cincinnati Bengals. The entire unit, it wasn't like one guy graded out really high and a couple of everybody across the board, graded out pretty well. It seems like it looked like they had a very solid football game up front. No quarterback sacks allowed. It was for the most part, a very clean football game. Neither team fumbled the football. Neither team put the ball on the ground at all. There was one interception for each quarterback on penalty yards. It wasn't the Bengals had 32 yards in penalties. The Panthers had 33 yards in penalties. I mean, that wasn't that big, or 39 yards, I should say, for the Bengals, and 37 for the Panthers. That wasn't that big a deal. It was a pretty clean football game, but man, at least we got to see the punter.
Yeah. Oh, look, and he banged a couple of them. So I mean that position. I mean, I'm watching him flip the field every time he punts it. However, I do want to point out one thing, because I do think over the last two games, the Cincinnati Bengals offense, and this is what happens when a record sort of overshadows progress, right?
Yeah.
Cincinnati Bengals offense over the last two games has been one of the best offenses in the National Football League. They've scored on a large variety. I think over the last 2 weeks, you haven't had to punt much, but you're talking about 85% scoring drive percentage against the Washington Commanders,
right?
And then in the game against the Panthers, they had a 60% scoring drive percentage, and that means they scored on 60%, 6 out of 10 possessions. They were putting points on the board.
Yep.
Right now, they rank through the first 4 games. They rank 3rd in the NFL, only behind the Washington Commanders, led by a rookie quarterback, by the way, and the New Orleans Saints in scoring drive percentage. That means every time you take the field, which is an average about 9 to 10 times per game, every time you take the field, offenses are trying to score. Well, the Cincinnati Bengals are scoring at the 3rd highest percentage of any offense in the National Football League, right around 57%. Again, just behind the Washington Commanders, just behind the New Orleans Saints. So Joe Burrow is getting his team either into the end zone or with a field goal at the end of these offensive possessions more than any other quarterback in the National Football League, other than the 2 teams that are ahead of him. I think that's really good, and I think we have great balance in our offense as well. Ran it 31 times against the Carolina Panthers for about $144, 144 yards rushing. And I just think Zach Moss, it's nothing flashy. Chase Brown, I think, is a little more explosive, but Zach Moss is not a negative. He doesn't get negative yards.
Yeah.
He holds on to the football, and he just keeps the pressure on the defense, and he's good. He has great balance and creating yards after contact. He knows where the first down marker is. He's just a really smart, heady, tough runner that if you're not going to be this, the Saquon Barkleys or the Christian McCaffrey, this is the guy you want, because you and I both know play callers, they love running backs who keep the play calling on schedule. And Zach Moss and Chase Brown combined, I think, are doing a great job of that.
And I'll tell you the other thing about Zach Moss, man, he stepped up and stuck his face in blitz pickup, man.
Ooh.
He sticks people. Yeah. He's as good a blitz pickup running back as I've seen, man. I mean, he is, and he on one of the plays, he sticks a defensive tackle, and he doesn't get knocked backwards. He sticks him. Then he sees Joe get out of pocket. He slides off the guy, finds an opening, 21-yard catch. I mean, he creates and extends along with Joe. It's like, all right, my quarterback's scrambling. Yeah. I'm going to run the same direction he's moving. I'm going to present myself. That stuff is just good football IQ,
It's priceless in our game that we play today. Think about it. Cincinnati Bengals we don't run a lot with the quarterback under center.
Right.
You know, I'm one that I wish we ran more because I think it would help our passing game. I think it would help our quarterback protection, but kind of have to do what the quarterback is most comfortable doing. And that makes it, you and I both know, a little more difficult on the running back, who's playing right next to the quarterback in shotgun and having to he's got to be able to scan from tackle to tackle, but then he's got to make sure he's not in the way of the quarterback and then has to get back over into maybe not the best position to take on a bigger guy coming off the edge, right? So Zach Moss is just that utility guy that can do a lot of things very well and doesn't appear to have any deficiencies in his game. And you and I both know that seems to be what Duke Tobin and Zach Taylor were looking for when they went out. You know, it wasn't easy to try to replace Joe Mixon, let's face it. But if you got to find a guy with no holes in his game, that's about as good as it gets.
Along with the offensive line that performed well in Solly, we're on the same page here. The Bengals ran the ball 31 times, threw it 31 times. You can't be more balanced than that. It's like,
right.
And in the first half, they had 6 carries for 11 yards. In the second half, 25 carries for 130. The last 8 plays of the game, run the ball no matter what. Orlando Brown holding, but still run the ball. Right. I mean, if Orlando doesn't get called for that holding penalty, I think they probably run it for a first down and take a knee and end the game. And Joe Burrow was saying in the locker room after the game, that's what they really wanted to do. But they took the Money Mac field goal and went up 2 scores and take the chance at that point. The Panthers ran it 29, threw it 40. So I mean, they did run the football and they ran it effectively, 155 yards, 5.3 per. But they had to throw the ball 40 times because of the circumstances of the football game. I tell you, that to me, with that offensive line that had the big game like we talked about, Sample blocked his tail off. Eric All does all the dirty work, man. I mean, this guy's all man. There's no doubt about it. Jamar Chase, man, on Moss's touchdown run, Jamar Chase is lined up at the end of the line of scrimmage like another tight end and just knocks people around, seals it, and Moss scores. It's like Jamar Chase dug out a safety when it was like, I'm not sure he can get there. He got there and dug him out. I'm like, everybody's blocking, man. It got contagious.
That game on Sunday, and look, I think they were playing with a lot of zeal in the Monday night game as well.
Right.
And obviously they took that on the road against Kansas City. It was just week 1 where you just didn't see the same effort that we were accustomed to seeing from this group of guys. You and I both know it's important to them to play well. And when they're all about it, when they're all playing like they did down there in Charlotte on Sunday, you and I both know they're a tough team to beat.
Right.
They just are, because they're very good football players. They do care a lot about one another, and that shows, right? Losing bothers them. It doesn't sit well with them. And that's the nucleus that you want. Those are the kind of guys that you want on your football team, because they're going to do all the little things. They are going to block when their ball's not thrown to them. They are going to cheer on the other guys when it's their turn. Mike Gesicki caught one pass on Sunday. Eric All Jr. seemed to be more of a focal point within the offense. He was targeted 4 times, caught the ball every single time. But both guys were blocking, and Eric All's everywhere. I mean, this guy's physical after the catch. He's physical when it comes to blocking.
Right.
This guy's a future star, by the way. I'm just telling.
Agreed.
And Andre, Josivas, all he does is do whatever it is they need for him to do. He seems to be a perfect blend for someone who fits right into what Joe is looking for, in whether he's the first wide receiver, the third, or the fifth in rotation. You just know that guy is going to do whatever's asked of him. He's going to do it at a very high level. I think he's a future star, to be honest with you.
Yep.
But they have several of those young guys within the rotation: Eric All Jr., Andre Josivas, Zach Moss, and Chase Brown, who seems to be very electric and just getting better and better with every single touch. You just get the sense that this offense is ascending. And defensively, I got some numbers here I want to share with you real quick, because, I'm sensitive when I see the ball thrown deep against a secondary. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because it's just not the recipe for winning. You cannot let them throw it over your head. So I wanted to go look, and I'm like, is it just me, or am I, And so I was looking, I said, the Bengals now defensively, they rank 5th in the NFL, allowing the 5th fewest explosive pass plays of 15 yards or more.
Huh.
They've allowed 15 of them in 4 games. Now, for you and I, that's a lot compared to the 2021 team when they didn't allow anybody to throw the ball over their heads, right?
Right.
But according to PFF, they've allowed 15. That's the 5th fewest.
Unreal.
There's a lot of other teams who've given up more than that. But I got to tell you, it feels like a lot. It feels like, right? It feels like a lot. And I'm just like, wait a minute. But, Andy Dalton came out throwing it. We all remember the Monday night game. Jayden Daniels was able to throw a few over our heads. They didn't give up, I don't think, hardly any in that Patriots game. Maybe that's why the numbers are maybe condensed to just the 3 games and not the 4.
Right.
But there are a lot of teams who have allowed a lot more. The Bengals have allowed the 5th fewest of any team. So they rank top 5 in that area in terms of being stingy, if we could call it that.
Yeah, that's a statement about the league in general, isn't it? I mean,
that's right.
They just want to attack big time. How about Jayden Daniels, though? We're thinking, oh man, the first 2 drives in the game, they win 42-14, touchdown, 16 straight drives scored.
Yeah.
And then finally had an interception, stopped the streak at 16 straight possessions, scored the football. That's unbelievable. Rookie, you kidding me? And then he set a record for rookie quarterbacks in a 4-game stretch, first 4 games completion percentage, with a minimum of 90 attempts, whatever it was. This guy, he's doing it to everybody, man. He's legit, isn't he?
He is legit. And at first, I think we got to give the offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, a lot of credit.
Agreed.
Who's kind of redeemed his reputation as an NFL offensive play caller. A lot of people thought it was the college game. And when he was working with Kyler Murray, it did not seem to be a great fit, even though they did have some success. It sort of peaked at a certain level that didn't get them where they all wanted to be. And remember, he had initially signed on to be the offensive coordinator with the Las Vegas Raiders. And then he got the call from the Commanders. They told him who they were going to draft. And he opted out of the deal with the Raiders to go to the Washington Commanders because of Jayden Daniels.
Right.
He wanted him. And I remember going to Arizona. I went out to Phoenix to watch my Buffaloes play Arizona State in 2019. I was going out there for a game, and there was a freshman that was starting at quarterback for Arizona State Sun Devils. Herm Edwards was the team, and it was Jayden Daniels. And he was throwing to a receiver that we all knew was going to be in the NFL by the name of Brandon Ayuk.
Yep.
But I was impressed with the freshman quarterback that day. That was Jayden Daniels. And what impressed me, he was poised. He was never panicked. The game didn't seem to be too big. And man, could he sling it. Mm-hmm. And he was a dual threat guy that didn't just run to run. You see, he's got the poise of a much older quarterback. And I think that's made all the difference in the world. He played a lot in college for 5 years, which I think has made all the difference in the world. And that's why you see Peyton Manning urging his nephew, Arch Manning, at Texas, nope, stay in college, play as much as you can, get all the reps you can, because I do think it does make a difference when you step into the NFL. You've seen more blitzes, you've seen more coverages, and you've had to learn how to play from the pocket, which is where Jayden Daniels, I think, is separating himself from some of the other rookie or younger quarterbacks.
Sully, let's get back to Ja'Marr Chase for a second here. What do you think as a defensive back when you see the play when he broke through all the contact for a 63-yard touchdown? What do you think when you're looking at Ja'Marr Chase? How do you handle that dude?
He's a wide receiver that doesn't think like most wide receivers.
Right.
In other words, he spends a lot of time in the weight room, and you can tell. Yep. You can tell. You can look at his physique and his build. The guy's calves are built like a Clydesdale. Normally, you don't find that in guys who are explosive and have speed.
Right.
But he has it. He's got the power to go along with the speed. He kind of reminds me of a Tyreek Hill. That if he get in the open, and I remember when he broke the second tackle, I said he's gone.
Yep, me too. I'm like,
I said he's gone. You can forget about it. You're not getting him.
Yep.
It's just he's that explosive. He's that electrifying. That's why for me, I just felt like this contract stuff, this brinksmanship, Dave, for me it just cannot be part of the dynamic here. He is so good. He means so much to the team that that the deal should be a done deal. And I think you and I both know that removes a lot of tension from the team. And
right.
I think we get off to a better start, put it this way, if that deal wasn't part of the dynamic. He deserves better, and I think we see it clear. Look, if he couldn't play that way as much as he wanted to week one, he couldn't play that way. This game, it's an emotional game. This game requires everything that we have. Heart, mind, soul, our whole psyche has to be totally invested. And if you have to be divided in how you're spending your energy trying to worry about my future, which every young man has to be, they're invested in understanding, I got to be able to take care of my future, my family, and all those things, right? And if you're forced to have to split your time between the two, you're going to struggle. And you can tell he's with it now. He's back. And I applaud what he's done and his ability to transition. And that play and that catch and run, I think, was indicative of the kind of player he is and the kind of player he can be when he can devote 100% to making plays on the field. But look, you and I both know you got to do the business part. Players can't just be one-dimensional these days. You absolutely cannot. You have to be fully invested. That's why we talk about taking care of your nutrition, getting the right amount of rest. You just can't be a guy and just shut up and dribble, right?
Right.
Just play. You have to be a businessman. You have to be invested in every aspect of your career because you and I both know when you're not, that's when things tend to go wrong.
No question. You look at this guy, though. I mean, he had 3 catches in the football game, 85 yards, 28.3 per because of that 63-yard that touchdown reception. Mm-hmm. Like we talked about, as a former offensive lineman, when I see him blocking his tail off on top of the big play, I'm like, I love that guy. I mean, he's given his teammates everything. He loves football. He loves his teammates. It's all important to him, man. I mean, I'm all in on Jamar Chase, as a former player and watching him play now. I mean, this guy is what it's all about, and I'm excited to see how it takes off from here. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens a little bit, Solly, while we got a chance, and mm-hmm. I can't believe they're 2-2. I mean, to me, it's like how did they lose to the Las Vegas Raiders? And they squeaked by Dallas, but boy, did they put it on Buffalo. But these two players, Henry and Jackson, 121 carries combined for 788 yards and 7 touchdowns, 6.5 yards a carry in the 4 football games. I mean, Henry has 5 rushing touchdowns. He's caught a touchdown as well. Nobody likes tackling Henry. I mean, how do you handle that, Solly? If the Red Sea parts and here comes Henry, what are you thinking, man?
You better get there early. You better get that. He's a Brahma bull,
man,
and you better get there before he gets his sights on you and starts coming downhill.
Yep. When
you play against a running back like Derrick Henry, I thought Chris Collinsworth did a really good job in the broadcast of showing you the comparison between Eric Dickerson and I played against Eric.
I agree.
I remember what that was like. The guy's a breakaway threat. He gets one seam on you, particularly coming downhill. He's going to run away from everybody. But what we knew about Eric Dickerson is the same is true about Derrick Henry. Is they are not really good at once they have to redirect, cut back, or redirect. If you make them shut down and stop their feet, they're kind of like that one-track runner. They're going to come around as long as they can stay on that track. right?
Yep.
They get that momentum going. That's when they're dangerous.
Yep.
But you gotta stop their momentum. You gotta make them change directions. Force them toward the sideline. Don't let them get coming downhill at you. Force him to run sideways, and that's where you can attack him. He does not have full power if he's running toward the sideline.
Right.
In fact, if you see his shoulders face the sideline, you better come get him and come get him quick. When he starts turning toward you now, that's where you got to make a business decision. And I think Taylor Rapp for the Buffalo Bills found that out. Once he's coming downhill, man, you want to olay that bull and kind of cajole him to the ground, right? You want to live to fight another day. But when he's facing the sideline, man, you got to be on the attack. You got to make him go sideways. You got to make him shut his feet down and have to stop and then try to change direction because it takes him a while to get his momentum up. It takes him a while to get rolling. Right. That's how you have, and it takes all 11 defenders pushing it toward the sideline, making sure he's running laterally and not coming downhill. Tell you what the Ravens did, though, to almost ensure that he gets a better look coming downhill. They put Lamar under center, and they put him in the eye, and now he's coming downhill. That happened. Two things happened for the offense. One, they were able to use the power of Derrick Henry. You saw it on the very first play from scrimmage. He goes 87 yards. I don't even think they touched him.
I agree. I don't think there's a fingernail on him.
They didn't even touch him, right? And secondly, it opened up their play action pass game.
Yeah.
So the Cincinnati Bengals right now rank 25th against the run, allowing the most rushing yards, 25th, right? Near the bottom of the league in terms of rush yards allowed.
Yep.
They rank 28th in yards allowed rushing after contact. 28th. So that's ranked near the bottom of the league in these areas that really plays to the strengths of the Baltimore Ravens when they come to Paycor Stadium on Sunday. So, yeah, we got a lot. There's a lot of work to do when it comes to defending Lamar and Derrick Henry.
You look at the on a quarter-by-quarter scoring basis. In the first quarter, the Ravens have outscored the opponent by 18. In the second quarter, by 15. They get off to fast starts. They've outscored people in the first half by 33.
Yeah.
But then they struggle to close it out. They've struggled to finish it, particularly in the first two games that they lost. It's even Steven, 21 points apiece in the third quarter, and they were outscored by 15 in the fourth quarter. So I think a big thing is, the Bengals obviously don't wait. You can't let them build a lead. Look what happened to Buffalo. They just kept building it. You got to get off to a good start, and that's where they have struggled a little bit. So particularly at home, you have to get off to a fast start against these guys.
Yeah, I think they've had 10 losses when they have a 7-point lead going into the fourth quarter.
Wow.
Since 2021. That's the most of any team during that kind of stretch with a 7-point lead going into the fourth quarter. They are a team that is built to play from ahead.
Yep.
They're not a team that's built to play from behind. Once they get rolling in the run game and they've got that comfortable lead, they're going to keep pounding you. And that's where they win the war of attrition, because you tend to wear down over the course of time. If you get the lead, what they showed even in the AFC title game when they were trailing by 7 points, they'll become a team that's different. They become a pocket passing, drop back passing team, less play action pass, less rushing attempts. They'll take themselves out of what they do just because they're playing from behind. So if you have any chance of taking out the Baltimore Ravens and limiting that rushing attack, you want to build a 10 to 14-point lead, because then they'll start to chase points in the passing game. And that, you and I both know, that's the best way to stop Derrick Henry, is to force them to throw the ball and not run it, giving the ball to him.
So two players have scored all their rushing touchdowns, Henry and Lamar. It's like 5 touchdowns rushing for Henry, 2 for the quarterback. Mm-hmm. And then passing touchdowns, it's 5 different players have all received a touchdown. So he's kind of distributing the ball a little bit there. 6 different receivers have a play of 20 or more yards. So he does seem to be dispensing the ball kind of all over every quadrant of the football field a little bit.
Yeah, because it's all coming off run
Yeah.
action. So if it comes off the run action stuff, look for a running back who's set wide behind the tackle. That means he's coming out for a pass.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now,
Right.
when the running back is cheating because he's got to get there, right? If he's really set inside the tackle, that's that's a run play. They start to cheat a little bit, heads up or outside the tackle. He's trying to get that release. He's trying to give himself space or an angle to get out of there and get out of there quickly on the run fake. Catch you biting up so they can sneak out past you. The tight ends as well. Tight formations with the receivers where it looks like they're packing in the run. You and I both know when they pack it in the run, they're going to have the tight ends in there. They're going to have everybody. But no, when they got receivers in there, look for nice little crossing routes to try to get them across the field. Look for play action, them taking a shot down the field. A lot of what they do in terms of the passing game is going to come off with some of these run looks. You got to be really dialed in to what they're doing and who they're doing it with. A lot of their runs are coming behind the 300-pound fullback Patrick Ricard, right? We used to play to the tilt. Play, in other words, if he's stacked over here and Henry is in that I formation, where do you think they're running it?
Right.
Where Patrick Ricard is, right? You might as well load up. Now, can you get play action to that side? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But hey, that guy's in there because they're running, not because they're throwing. Okay. So if there are some tails to what they do, you just got to be really dialed in, man. And you got to be very disciplined with your eyes. And you can't guess. You can't be guessing, hoping to make a play. You've got what they do is so specific that their tendencies tend to tell you clearly when they get in certain alignment with certain personnel, with certain people, here's what they're doing. I mean, it is so clear. It's like looking in the mirror, right? Yeah. What you see in that mirror, that is exactly what you're going to get. And that means they have to, the Bengals have to be very dialed in defensively. And if you are, and you bring an extra mouthpiece and an extra chin strap, because that's what it's going to take. If you do that and match their physicality, you can beat them. You can beat them. Yeah. They're not invincible now. They're not invincible, but you better get ready for a physical battle, and you better love and embrace the physicality that comes with playing the Baltimore Ravens.
Bingo. And put on the double chin strap and tackle, because against Kansas City, missed 16 tackles. I mean,
can't do it.
Excuse me, I got the wrong. Okay, yeah. Against New England, missed 16 tackles. Against Kansas City, they cut it down. They cut it in half to 8. Against Washington, missed 11. Yeah. Against Carolina, back to 16. I mean, you're averaging like 13 missed tackles a game. I mean, if they missed that many tackles with Henry and Jack, are you kidding me? I mean, it's going to be pick a number, man. It's going to be a long day.
Yeah, that's why we talk about the amount of rushing yards after contact.
Yep.
They're one of the worst in the league. They're ranked 28th in the NFL. Rushing yards allowed after contact. Think if they made those tackles right at that point, that would decrease the amount of rushing yards they've allowed this year. They've given up over 100 yards rushing in all 4 games this season. So you want to cut that down. You just got to tackle. You just got to be able to get people on the ground. And you and I both know tackle is not about how to. It's about want to.
Yep.
If you want to get them on the ground, you'll get them on the ground.
Very true. Finally, in order to be a good football team, you have to have talent, and they certainly do. They got a Pro Bowler at every position group, every level. They have a Pro Bowler in the defensive line. They have a Pro Bowler at the linebacker position in Roquan Smith. They have a Pro Bowler on the back end in Marlon Humphrey, and they also have Eric Hamilton, one of the most versatile players you're going to find in all of football. Offensively, they have a Pro Bowl center. They have a Pro Bowl left tackle, but he's not like he was in 2019 in the Pro Bowl. He's had knee and ankle injuries since. Stanley's not really the same guy, but they still – Mark Andrews is a Pro Bowler. They got a Pro Bowl quarterback, and he's 2-time MVP. They got a Pro Bowl running back. This team has got some talent now, and they're coached well.
Yeah, I think the world of John Harbaugh.
Me too.
He understands the resiliency that's needed He coaches with the bigger picture. They have an identity as an organization. They have an identity as a football team. They know what their standards are, and they don't compromise those standards for anyone. Despite how bad it might look getting off to an 0-2 start, they know that they're playing the long game, and they know that they have the goods to be able to withstand the long game. That when it's all said and done, we're going to be one of the last teams left standing, and we're going to be in the playoffs. And I mean, they just know that, and they expect that, and they don't panic, right? But they do also force you to play a brand of ball that seems to be lost today. Everyone wants to go nickel packages and defend and, go chase the quarterback and not defend the run, try to get interceptions, but not play discipline with their eyes and come up and tackle, not take proper angles to make tackles, allow people to cut back and chase the ball carrier in a haphazard way that allow people cutback angles. I don't get that.
Yep.
But if you're going to beat this team, again, you're going to have to embrace the physicality. You're going to have to embrace these little things that minimize second chance opportunities that real good running teams expect, right? They expect to break a tackle, pop one, and then they're just wearing you down. And that's what they expect. And you cannot allow that to happen. Because here's the deal. If you can't stop them, you got to play them again later in the year, and you got to go play them there.
Yep.
They'll do it again to you. You got teams within this division. That's what they do. And if they see that you can't stop it, you got teams lining up that say, okay, we see that for 4 weeks, you guys gave up 100 yards rushing. We'll give you a little bit more of that and a little bit more of that. So sooner or later, you have to stop it. Now, it doesn't help that they're without, Sheldon Rankins and B.J. Hill. This is a team.
Right.
Bengals are battling now with injuries up front on that defensive line. You and I both know it.
Yep.
It's hard, man, to stop the run when you come into the season already light in terms of your depth on the defensive line.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll get McKinley Jackson is due to come back. Miles Murphy will come back sooner than McKinley Jackson. You got to get some practice reps in, no doubt about that. B.J. Hill hopefully make the dance. Will Sheldon Rankins? I mean, hopefully they'll start to get some bodies back. And one final thing, Solly, in a division rivalry game like this, special teams and field position becomes also important. We know how the Bengals have been actually the actual kicking, punting and place kicking has been very solid for the Cincinnati Bengals, better than that even. Well, Baltimore Ravens have it as well. Stout is that as a punter. He's getting out of the shadow of Sam Cook, and Justin Tucker converting over 90% of his field goals for his career is probably the best in the business. I mean, these field goal kickers, I mean, once you cross midfield, they're in field goal range. It's crazy.
Yeah, look, I like our kicker too. He's the same way. Yep. He's a weapon. He's a weapon,
no doubt,
for the Cincinnati Bengals offense. So Justin Tucker, Evan McPherson. I mean, take your pick, right? But their kicking game is one of the best because their head coach cut his teeth as a special teams coach. I remember when he was down the road at UC, right?
Yeah.
With Brian Mentor. I remember when Coach Harbaugh, he played collegiately at Miami up in Oxford.
Yep.
This is kind of like a coming home for him, even though he doesn't like to admit it. But he's a good coach that coaches every phase of the game. He has his fingerprints everywhere on his football team, and the kicking game is something that he takes dearly. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that. And so they'll be ready, and they're going to do something, when they're on the road and if they feel like they're down, they always have something extra planned and prepared. They seem to be that kind of team. I would imagine Geno Stone is going to be a little bit more excited about the game this week. I would imagine that Orlando Brown is going to be a little bit more excited about the game this week. So I like the guys that we have in Bengals stripes, and I'd say bring it on.
I hear you, man. I hear you. It's gonna be very interesting. I mean, Harbaugh, he was the special teams coach for the Eagles. That was his first job in the NFL, and he was he was really, really good at it. Solly, as always, man. I mean, literally, I could do this for hours and never get. It's like, where'd the day go, man? I mean, it's unbelievable. Love catching up with you and talking football. You are as good as it gets, my man. I'm serious. You are something else.
Well, we appreciate it. Mondays are busy days around the NFL. It's like they keep us hopping, they keep us running. But Dave, it's always great to take some time out to join you and talk Bengals football. We just got to keep stacking the wins, my friend.
There we go. Get a division win at home. Mm-hmm. There's no way you can lose your first 3 home games, Solly, right? I mean, with this football team, come on now. Come on now.
I don't even want to think about it, but you're right. It's staring us right in the face, so we got to take care of that.
I hear you. Solly, have the best day you ever had, my man. You deserve it.
All right. Do the same, Dave. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.